This week on Hack Naked News, the awesome, raw, naked singularity power of Jason Wood. And me, Doug White, because Paul isn't here because he's doing something else, which I'm sure is equally important. We're going to talk about shadow brokers. Yeah, shadow brokers, or maybe it's Borat. We're not sure exactly. And we're going to talk about Cyberpatriot, which is a good thing. And I won't even make fun of it because it is such a good thing. So hang around.
This is Security Weekly. For security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show that brings you the security news each week. And despite popular belief, we do wear pants. It's Hack Naked News. Brought to you by IT Pro TV, an easy, entertaining approach to online IT training. Stream over 2,000 hours of up-to-date, high-quality video content live and on demand. For a free 7-day trial and for a limited time, get 50% off a monthly membership for the lifetime of your active subscription. Visit itpro.tv/hacknaked and use the code HN50. You have a website, an external presence, employees, an office? Any of these things can be compromised and attacked. How are you defending these assets? Have you penetration tested these public assets? Start 2017 by taking a proactive approach to securing your vulnerable areas. Black Hills Information Security has been helping companies find their weaknesses since 2008. Email consulting@blackhillsinfosec.com and see how they can help you sleep better at night.
ITPro.TV's courses now include ITIL, Managing the Lifecycle, and Microsoft Hello for Business. You would pay $85.70 a month or $857 per year. But we have a special offer for our listeners. Hang on, here it comes. Wait for it. For a limited time, get 50% off monthly memberships for the lifetime of your active subscriptions. That means like lifetime, like forever and ever and ever of your active subscription by visiting itpro.tv/hacknaked. And just the fact that you get to type that in makes it all worthwhile. And use the code HN50 to get that super crazy giant discount. Okay? So, welcome, Jason.
Hey, Doug. How's it going?
I'm good. I'm here instead of somebody else. So, that's always a good thing because I love attention. I just came from doing another presentation to a bunch of high school students who are interested in cybersecurity who are trying to learn how to break into things or something like that. So hopefully didn't give them too many tips.
You do have to watch out a little bit on what you say to them, and what you're trying to explain and what they hear can be two very different things.
I know. I keep doing those presentations, and when we were talking about Cyberpatriot today, I was thinking about that, so we'll come back to that in a little bit. But initially, we were going to talk about shadow brokers because there was a release story now this week, and my first story was about just basically the shadow brokers releasing this NSA exploit. And I found this thing to be kind of strange. When you read what they put up on the site, they basically were putting up what, I don't know, it almost sounded like a false flag kind of thing to me. It was sort of freaking me out because it was like listening to Borat or something. The way that the language worked on the site is very broken Englishy, almost like fake broken Englishy kind of thing. But they supposedly were auctioning off all these exploits that they were going to give you to the highest bidder, and it said basically if you didn't win the bid, you still lost the Bitcoin, and they were demanding like $500 million or something like that. Did you read that story?
Yeah, I saw that, and I thought that was a heck of a fundraiser. It's kind of a win, I guess, for the folks doing the auctioning. Is not only do we get the winning bid, payment for the winning bid, but we get to keep whatever anybody sends anyway. That sounds like a pretty fabulous fundraiser, if you will.
Apparently, so far they had hit like 1.6 Bitcoin was where the auction was standing. So they'd fallen a little bit short of where they were hoping to get to in the early days of the auction. It looked like most of the exploits, I went on and I read there was a pile of articles about this stuff, but it looked like most of the stuff was targeting SWIFT, which is a currency exchange center mostly in the Middle East. I think they have some of it in Europe. And there was a lot of different examples of like Cisco exploits. There were Microsoft exploits, including some Microsoft zero-day exploits. But I guess apparently once this stuff kind of got out in the open, everything was from around 2013. Did you get that?
Yeah, it's when things started getting released, what you found, I mean, Microsoft has released patches for some of the things that were in here already. But I think one of the key points is they have released patches for actively supported software platforms. So if you're running Windows XP, you're out of luck. There's not going to be a patch for it. And I don't know about you, but I still keep doing penetration tests, and I still keep running into end of life software that's no longer receiving updates. That stuff's going to be wide open.
Yeah, I mean, I had an email literally. I guess it was last night. I was actually putting the notes together for the story, and I got an email from a former client who said, "So, do you think that Windows Server 2003 and Windows NT is vulnerable to any of these exploits?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I can't." I said, "You're still running NT," and they were like, "Well, we have a server. It runs NT. It's still out there." And, we can't afford to replace it, update it, or whatever. I'm like, well, good luck with that. The thing's end of life, and XP is end of life. And so all those are got holes in them. But it looked like initially, anyway, that the dates sort of coincided with Snowden's release of all the information. And I guess that's sort of what led me around to my own paranoia of false flags, was that could this possibly be a false flag designed to encourage people to attack Middle Eastern assets? I mean, they seem to be the main force of the target, and I kind of got into this paranoia mode. And maybe it's a little too Tom Clancy kind of novel, but I don't know.
Yeah, I can tell you that when this was released, the folks I work with, we started jumping into this pretty quick and messing around with it. Some of the guys on the team spent some time in the lab with it, and not everything is working that's in this dump, but they definitely found that, hey, here's unauthenticated remote code execution on some of these old OSs. Rock on. And that is a real problem when you get into these enterprises where, Windows 2003 server, I haven't seen Windows NT in ages and ages, but Windows 2003 server, I run into that, and it's not supported. There's not going to be any updates from Microsoft for it, and you're hanging out there with it.
Right.
And a lot of it goes back to that kind of hygiene type of thing of running your environment. Keep up to date. It's great you can apply patches and stuff like that. You needed to keep doing that, but once they end of life the software, stuff like this can pop up at any time.
Right.
And you think, well, we're pretty good. There's no, nothing should be really being released for this platform anymore because it's old and out of date. Maybe somebody got that feeling of some obscurity, right? But the reality is as soon as something gets released, you're up a creek. There's no working around it. You got vulnerable systems, and the nature of a Microsoft environment is that they trust each other. Accounts,
right.
You have trust built up, and so I pop this machine, I get access to some credentials, and I start pivoting and moving around through your environment. It's blooming hard to isolate a server so much that you can't that it can function.
Well,
and prevent somebody from moving around through your network from there.
And I'll say a lot of clients who can afford you probably have the ability to upgrade. A lot of clients who call me don't have that ability, to just replace. And I mean, but what we try to tell them is, look, I don't care how good, they'll say, well, we've got it all firewalled and everything else. But I think pivot is the operative word in that environment, which is that because this is the oldest hack stuff in the world. I mean, this stuff was going on back in the 80s. It was how people took over mainframes not mainframes. It was how people took over like early server-based networks because you could exploit, and the servers had been set up to assume trust between two IP addresses or whatever. Microsoft stuff takes it a step further, and it's already actively communicating and trusting itself. So if somebody goes in then exploits that XP box that's sitting on somebody's desk. But we see that all the time. I mean, I go out and we audit. I had students on Monday night. I was giving them a real world problem based on a real world case that I did, where the company says the person managing all this quit. We don't know what we've got. We don't know where it is. Figure it out. And, one of the things sitting on that case was an NT server. One of the things sitting there with a bunch of XP boxes down in a lab, and all that stuff is vulnerable beyond belief. And so, if you're sitting on that, it's pretty scary. A second story about this that I read was on NPR, and they were talking about how this actually sounded like those messages that used to be in the back of the Village Voice, which says stuff like, the clock strikes at midnight, and you don't know what those messages mean. And sometimes I always thought it was just people putting creepy messages in the back of the Village Voice, because we used to do stuff like that and put it in the campus newspaper, and you go out and you take out an ad in the campus newspaper for 3 cents and you write something really strange and cryptic because it's fun and people wonder what it means, and it means nothing. But NPR was talking about how this whole shadow brokers thing might actually be a message that, if you keep doing things that you're doing, I guess a message to the NSA, they weren't sure either, but it was like, they said this looked like it was all Russian-based, and that maybe it was a message to the NSA saying, look, if you keep doing what you're doing, you keep probing this, and you keep we're going to keep exposing you, so we're just going to keep unloading on you until you quit. So, I don't know. I mean, that's another journalist's take on it.
Well, I think they can dump all they want. The NSA is not going to quit. They're just going to change and continue moving on. So, I mean, they've been around for a long time. They've got an important, if you're in the United States, a U.S. citizen, they've got an important job. They do, electronic intelligence gathering, and I don't think they're going to quit just because somebody keeps dumping tools.
No, I don't either. I mean, that would be ridiculous. And I think the threat is, to me, that sounded pretty silly. I mean, I don't,
yeah.
But I mean, that doesn't mean that some, bunch of hacker group didn't try it. But I don't think that would actually get a result. It obviously hurts national security and hurts intel collection when they lose the ability to use these tools, because then they get patched. Or just like we've seen, in the not too recent past, we saw another set of leaks on the CIA, and it was very similar to this. There weren't a lot of exciting tools in this dump, but they're supposedly trying to sell those, but they didn't seem to have a lot of information. They claimed there were Cisco exploits and all sorts of things that were new, but there's no indication of where those are, what they are, or when and if anybody will ever see them. So to me, that's, if you want to hand over $500 million in Bitcoin to these guys to find out, well, knock yourself out, and be sure and send us a small gratuity for suggesting the idea. We would be willing to take 1% of $500 million, even just for reporting on it. But I mean, that was what I saw. It was, I thought it was all very squirrely looking personally. So I don't know.
And one of the things I thought too, as I was looking at, this dump, I mean, a lot of it is they're compiled EXEs and stuff like that. And the immediate thought I had is, that's nice. What else is in these things?
Yeah. I mean,
has it been modified? Has it been mucked around with? Has it, who knows? I mean, if you want to mess around with this stuff, that's cool. I'm messing around with it, certainly. But, you're not going to load it up on your work system or use it in a penetration test this week without a lot of close scrutiny and testing and stuff like that to make sure that these things aren't running around doing something else. Oh, look, it just formatted my hard drive. That really sucked. That sort of thing.
Exactly. I mean, and that's what we do with stuff like that, is we download it onto VMs that are, locked up, and I mean, and the VMs themselves are not on anything that's exploitable. So it's like download it to the VM, but if you're going to look at any of this stuff, because that would be another kind of setup, and it could even be just a total fraud. So don't be downloading this stuff and playing with it on your work system, or you may be sorry. I actually went and looked at one of the pages that was linked off of a Washington Post article, and the page itself looked like it might be a phishing attack. I'm not sure. There was an article that came out this morning that said that the password to the whole trove of stories was based on this, the frog, Pepe. What is it? Is that Pepe the frog? That the password was like REEE for the whole file. So they said that was another Russian kind of thing. Of course, apparently a lot of white supremacists and other people use that same meme as a logo. So who knows? I mean, it's just like it's like anything like this. You're buying weird stuff on a street corner from some guy you've never met. Who knows what you're going to get?
I did. Yeah, my last bit on this is I got a kick out. You mentioned the Borat tone of it, and I really kind of liked their sign off on their original dump, which was the shadow brokers rather be getting drunk with McAfee on desert island with hot babes. Maybe if all surviving World War III, the shadow brokers be seeing you next week. Who knows what we having next time? And I just kind of laughed and said, yeah, well, we'll be watching.
Exactly. So after these messages, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about Cyberpatriot. So we'll see you in a few minutes.
Has your network been breached? Cybereason can help you answer this question. Cybereason products hunt for threats within your network and eliminate them in real time. To Cybereason, real time means within seconds. Founded by former military hackers who don't play by the rules, they've built this experience into their platform. Harness ingenuity and imagination, not just code, to defeat attackers. Cybereason, disrupt the adversary and let the hunt begin. Gain control of cyber risk with Tenable.io, the first vulnerability management platform built for today's elastic assets like cloud, containers, and web apps. Discover a fresh, asset-based approach that prioritizes vulnerabilities while seamlessly integrating into your environment. And improve ROI with the first elastic licensing approach based on assets, not IP addresses. Tenable.io delivers the data and context you need to secure your elastic attack surface. Start your free Tenable.io trial today by visiting Tenable.io.
Back at last with Hack Naked News with the amazing Jason Wood, located remotely on a feed from Colorado. Or are you in Colorado? Or can you tell us, is it just that white behind you that's like shocking and we don't really know what's there?
I'm in exotic Utah, so.
Oh, you're in exotic Utah. Okay,
yes,
so that's why the backdrop.
Bottom of a lake bed, essentially.
Oh, I thought it was I thought it was a geisha house or something. It's like what's behind you.
Nah, that just hides my workbench.
Oh, I kept expecting like James Bond to come through the door or something, or a samurai sword or something like Uma Thurman with a samurai sword. But okay, well it's good to hide your workshop. I have those like serial killer shower curtains on mine, so Paul likes those a lot. But
nice.
Yeah. So thanks for being with us, and today, on this segment, we want to talk a little bit about Cyberpatriot. And Cyberpatriot is a program that was developed by the Air Force Association, strangely enough. I mean, when I first saw that, I was like, what? But apparently they're the ones that got the funding for it. Do you know? Right. Do you know the history?
A little bit. So what happened was originally Cyberpatriot, the Air Force Association, which is kind of not the Air Force, but
the association
of members. But they, obviously with some special interest in national defense and the whole bit, said, hey, we've got this issue where more and more stuff, we're becoming more and more dependent on computers and computer security, or in the federal world, what we call cyber, right? And they said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we came up with some interesting way to grow talent and feed into the military, into those who are, looking at military careers. And so their initial competition was with a few groups, I believe, with like the Civil Air Patrol and some Air Force JROTC teams, where they had a very small competition to kind of give a proof of concept. And the idea behind Cyberpatriot is that it is purely defensive oriented. So you don't teach high school kids how to break into systems. You teach them how to, here's a busted system with a backdoor on it or whatever that may be on it. Here's how you clean it up, harden it, and you get scored on that. And they've got basically a score bot that works. The first year was a success. They've expanded it. And, now we're in Cyberpatriot 9 was this year's season, so the 9th year. I've been involved with the program now. This was my 4th season as a mentor. So it's a program I definitely enjoy, mostly because I enjoy working with the high school kids and now middle school students and watching them learn and grow in this area. And because I've been involved with it as long, with for 4 years, I'm able to actually see where this has made a difference in these kids' lives in getting scholarships for schools and for school or jobs and whatnot. So I think it's a fabulous program. And the reason why I brought it up here and submitted it for this week is actually on April 3rd through the 5th, they just had their national championship tournament contest in Maryland. And the way the program works is every team, there's like 4 different competitions. Every team gets a set of virtual machines. They go through, and as they fix things, the scoring engine runs on top and reports back to a server run by the Cyberpatriot program, and they get their scores. And as they move through the tiers, they get whittled down to the final level of contestants. And I think it was 12. What do we have? 13 teams who were not defense affiliated. They call it open division or 12, open division teams. So there's a lot of charter schools or tech-focused schools compete in that. You've got 13 all-service division schools teams, so Civil Air Patrol, the JROTC programs and things like that. And recently, in the last few years, they've expanded it down to the middle school. So the top 3 middle schools across the country had a chance to compete. And they basically are working on Windows, Linux, doing Cisco networking, some forensics, and they get together for a few days to do this competition. This year we had North Hollywood High Schools won the open division, and the Colorado Springs Cadet Squadron from the Civil Air Patrol won the all-service division, and Summit Lakes Middle School in Missouri was the best middle school team in the nation. So it's a lot of fun. It's a long haul for the competition throughout the year, I can tell you that. But the kids really learn and grow a lot. And one of the things I believe in is, there's folks who helped me in my career and, helped me get to where I'm at. This is kind of my way of paying it forward a little bit. And this is a great program for that. You do have to be a little careful with what you explain to them, kind of like what we hinted at in the beginning. Last year, we were talking about doing some after the season was over, we started talking about doing some offensive capture the flag contests. And one of the middle school kids really got adamant about the idea that he was going to create a Facebook account and then try and hack into his own Facebook account. And we had to explain to him that, no, you don't own Facebook's application or servers. You're not supposed to do that. And he's like, well, why? It's my account. And, you realize, okay, we've got a maturity thing we've got to work with here.
We have that problem. We have that problem here on the show as well. I mean,
well, yeah, but what an adult does versus what a 12-year-old does are two different things.
Well, that's true, but you can get your record expunged when you turn 18 if you're,
all right, that's fair enough. But I bring this up because, like I said, I think it's a great program. I know, Doug, you said you've got some experience with it as well, and if you're looking for an opportunity to kind of help keep your fire lit in technology, pay it back to the community around you, something I recommend to anybody to go check out, find in their area, and get involved.
Yeah, so we put a link to the Cyberpatriot main site on the page for the show today. Our involvement in it has been Rhode Island originally. When I first heard about Cyberpatriot, I was pretty excited about it, that the idea that there would be something like this available to students to do. I had a lot of the reservations you did because years ago I taught a class called Hacking 101, and I got in all kinds of trouble. It was college students, and we got in all kinds of trouble just because of the name, which I learned was stupid. But, at the time I didn't know any better. And we had a maturity problem, which was me. But, I mean, at the end of the day, when I heard about this, I started talking about it in Rhode Island and found out we had, I think, 1 or 2 teams in the state of Rhode Island. In Rhode Island, the State Computer Crimes Unit and the Rhode Island Cyber Disruption Team which is now called the Joint Task Force or something like that, took sort of command of it and started coordinating Rhode Island cyber disruption members, of which we had hundreds, with schools. Because one of the big things for you guys out there listening, one of the things a lot of schools in your area, wherever you are, need is they're going to need mentors and advisors for this, because a lot of schools had teachers willing to sponsor it who did not have the skill set to train people. A lot of the schools we ran into sometimes had a teacher who said, I have some skills, but I don't have enough. I need experts to come in and talk. So we had anything and everything here, everything from schools that had amazing people that had huge skill sets to schools that had literally one who had an incredibly dedicated teacher who was like an art teacher who was just sponsoring it and said, I don't know anything about what they need to do. They're having to handle all of themselves. And we were able to connect them up with mentors and assistants, whether it meant I went in and I gave a lecture about Linux, or somebody actually took over like you're doing and being a full-time mentor coach for the whole team. So if you want to get involved, try to find mechanisms in your state, like through the state police computer crimes or some other entity in your state. I don't know what it is, but or just go through the Air Force Association. They can definitely hook you up with people like us that have been doing that. That have mechanisms in place that maybe could help. I know our state police organization I'm committing them to all kinds of stuff, would probably be willing to assist in that. It is a great program, and I learned to program from a bunch of engineers who took their own spare time to teach me how to do that. And I wouldn't probably be here if it wasn't for that. I would probably be playing the guitar on the side of the subway platform and starving to death. But as it is, I was able to learn to code because of that. So teaching these kids to get them into cybersecurity, and one other really important point that I want to make, keeping them away from the bad things, because there is a huge lure for young people to get involved in things they shouldn't get involved in online, and join things like shadow brokers if you're not careful. So that's I think that's about it. Any other closing comments, Jason?
Just one last comment. If you're interested and you want to look for a team in your area, go to uscyberpatriot.org, and you can sign up for an account and then actually go look for teams, search for teams in your area if you want to get involved. That's a quick, easy way to hunt around for something in your area that may already be active. And they are always looking for somebody to talk to them and help the kids out.
So do that. Help them out. You need to. Give it back. That's the Hack Naked News for this week. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon. Aloha.